Hello and welcome to Winning Calls with Oracle. This is a virtual race viewing event which today features the Danish SailGP team presented by ROCKWOOL. I'm your host Ed Lee, and together with the Danish skipper Nicolai Sehested and their data analyst Peter Wibroe, we're going to be looking at all of the action from the second fleet race of the Sydney SailGP event, which took place on the iconic Sydney Harbour back in February 2020. Being one of two brand new teams out on the water, it was going to be a steep learning curve for the Danish team. They'd had less than 20 hours in the F50 when the event started, but there was one upside. They'd had access to all of the F50's data, all of the team's data from season 1 of SailGP. You see, during the race, each F50 is sending millions of data points via the Oracle Cloud to each data analyst dashboard. The big challenge is then deciphering all of that data and turning it into incremental gains which could turn into better positions out on the water. So there are no secrets. All of the teams have access to all of this data. So the Danes would have to work very hard if they wanted to get up to speed. Let's check this out. Welcome to Winning Calls with Oracle. Nicolai Sehested, Peter Wibroe, welcome to Winning Calls with Oracle. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Nicolai, first question for you. You had very little preparation time for your first event in Sydney. How did you fast track everyone on the boat?
I mean, yeah, it was a big challenge for us, and we knew that from day one. But one of the main keys was that we were actually able to look into the other teams' data from the year before and from some of the training up to. So instead of try every single solution and every single setup, we were able to copy some of the things. And I'm actually not ashamed of us just copying the other teams. It's for us, it's just a great way to save time in the water and then get up to speed. So yeah, we copied the best teams and used their settings to begin with, and then we slowly sort of developed our own sort of touch to it. That was a main key for us to catch up quickly.
Well, that goes straight to you, Peter, because it's that idea that you've got this vast quantity of data created by all 6 F50s in season 1. It must have been an incredibly daunting prospect to start rooting through all of that data and trying to pull out the key points that were going to make you faster.
Yeah, exactly. We had all that historical data available in our hands and quite easily accessible. So we knew that all the answers were in there somewhere. So we quickly realized that our main challenge was actually to find the right questions. We slowly kind of were able to break the few things down. But also we figured out that at the end of the day, we also needed to get our hands dirty and get out there on the boat and also learn a bit on our own.
Okay, well, I know that you were on the rib with the data dashboard, but you're also primed and ready as the 6th sailor, weren't you, Peter?
Yeah, for some reason I was appointed the spare grinder. I don't know if I was completely fit for that, but I had a few runs on the boat, which was good. So sitting there with all the safety gear on and trying to focus on the numbers and kind of hoping that no one got injured on the boat.
Okay, right, we're going to take a look now and run through your performance in race 2 of the Sydney SailGP event. I think it's important to say at this stage that it was a little bit of a lottery for everyone, wasn't it, Nicolai? Out on the water, wind conditions were super gusty.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think, I'd love to say it was a bit of a lottery because we didn't do that well, but to be honest, I think that the strong teams, they always come out up top on difficult situations and difficult conditions. So, it's shifty and it was a tricky day, but to be honest, the fastest team was still winning all races. So I think it just comes down to sailing the boat well and really managing the conditions you have and don't make any mistakes. So I think it was a good day of racing, really good fun.
Okay, if you're just checking out these screens for the first time, this is what you'd see if you're watching the SailGP app. On the top left-hand side of the screen, you've got the live race feed. Then we've got the onboard Danish camera below that. Then we've got all of the different data points. So the ride time, the amount of time that the boat's up on the foils, the distance to the leader. The ride height is one of the critical pieces of data that we'll be looking at. You've got any penalties incurred. You've got the pitch of the boat and the roll of the boat, so the angle angle it's leaning forwards or backwards or side to side. And then that graphic down at the bottom is a really interesting one to keep your eye on. Just under a minute 30 away from the start. And what are your tactics at this stage?
I mean, for me, it's about not risking too much in the starts. It's as a new team, we don't want to put everything on the line just before we even started the race. So we just want to get across the line in a sort of a similar mid position. That's all we need, and then we have a full race course to catch up or to defend. But we're trying to stay away from too many trouble with as a new team. That's generally the basics tactics I was running in Sydney.
Okay, all 7 boats though starting to get very, very close now as they arrive. It's a massive pinch point, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's you have to be so much on your game here to get a good start, because obviously everyone's very good at what they're doing here, and you can't really hide from the fight because the fight will come to you. So you have to be ready for it and defend the best you can. And you can see now on the screen that we have 4 boats fighting to win the pin, and there's only meters between us while we're doing 35, 40 knots of boat speed, and eventually we got the pin which we wanted, but it might have caused us a bit of precision on the line to get a good acceleration here.
Yeah, you've got this leeward end or downwind end of the mark, which gives you a good clean start, and you time this perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted the pin because the pin was closer to the reach mark, but unfortunately with the pin is the issue is if one of the boats above you is a bit faster and sail over you, they're going to give you dirty winds and they will hurt you, with the dirty wind. And if one boat is doing it, as you can see now, GBR is doing it. Unfortunately, that means normally 2 or 3 or 4, even the whole fleet will do it to you before you actually get up to speed again. And I think it's a good lesson for us from Sydney. Don't start next to GBR. You will most of the time get washed out, and then you end up in trouble.
Okay, that's definitely a learning then. Now, this is one of the most exciting moments here, the bear away. You've been going directly across the wind for that first leg, and then as you turn around that first mark, that's when the boat really picks up and accelerates, isn't it?
Yeah, and the first time you do it, it's a bit scary, to be honest. But after that, it's actually really, really cool every single time. You just get amazed how these boats can accelerate that quickly. It's you think you're going pretty quick already when you're on the reach or even the upwinds, and then suddenly you just put the bow down and the boat just keeps accelerating until you're seeing high 40s. So fantastic feeling. But at that stage, you're already thinking of your next maneuver. You cannot afford just to enjoy the sail. Unfortunately, everything goes so quick. You have to be 2 maneuvers ahead out there in the decision making and the planning of how you get to the next mark in good shape.
Okay, Peter, what we've seen there is a giant wind shift, wasn't it? Had you noticed that coming through on the data? The direction had changed.
Well, looking at the data, especially in the first race, we were mainly looking at what was happening as it happened. And we're so lucky that this vast amount of data, more than 1,000 channels, are being uploaded more or less instantly. So we see what's going on as it happens out there. Unfortunately, we are not there yet to be able to predict the wind shifts based on the data that's entering the cloud. But let's see where we end.
Well, you'd got some experience from race 1 of Shark Island that is about to come into the shots now on the main race feed, which was breaking up the wind coming straight down the course, and there was a big decision to be made tactically on which side of that island you chose to go. There was a brilliant quote in there. This question's to both of you, but there was a brilliant quote from Saskia Clark who said, yes, there's a certain amount of luck, but the more experience you have, the less luck it becomes, and the more it becomes about analysing data and actually making the call on previous experience. Were you starting to find that?
Yes, well, the first race, I think everybody on the team learned so much there. The learning curve was massive on all aspects, also in the tactical situations and how to approach the Shark Island. So we had a few ideas on how to get along. So that strategy on how to approach that, combined with the very specific tactical aspects that you have available for the F50, allowed us to, within those few minutes between the 2 races, we were trying to boil that down to how to approach race 2.
Nicolai, from your perspective, you're very much in the mix at the moment. You were in 4th position, but still in contact with Great Britain, the USA, and ahead of Japan, who, alongside Australia, had dominated this event in 2019.
Yeah, I think in general we were in the mix in every race on that day, but unfortunately, a lack of experience when things got a little bit difficult meant that we're dropping down in the mix. So, but all races in that day on the first top gate that we're reaching, that we're getting to now, we're in the top part of the fleet. But it is very hard for us at this stage to put a full race together. One thing is we can put 2 or 3 legs together and a few maneuvers, but when you ask us not to make any mistakes for 10 minutes when the other teams is putting pressure on us, that's very hard. But yeah, as you can see, we're definitely in the mix now, and I think in general we're very positive that our first event we're able to at least give it a bit of competition to some of the other teams. That's for sure one thing that we took away from that day.
Now, you've turned around the left-hand mark there at the top of the course, and that decision would prove critical, wouldn't it, in the outcome of the race?
Yes, unfortunately, I know the now, so I know it's not going to be a good outcome for us. But we went for the easy maneuver at the left, at the top there. Instead of doing a tack and then turn around the right mark, we just simply kept it simple. And then it could have been okay, I think, but we pushed all the way into the boundary where the spectator fleet are sitting, and that just meant, as you can see on the footage now, we simply ran out of breeze, and USA did the same. And us in USA are simply just sitting there, not really getting back on the foils. And in the meantime, the guys who went on the other side of the Shark Island is doing plus 30 knots of boat speed. So we actually went from hero to zero in 30 seconds by choosing the left mark.
And I mean, there's nothing that you can't talk to the boats during the race, Peter. But obviously, you're looking at all of this data, and then that's information stored for the next fleet race.
Yeah, and as Nicolai said, there's always a compromise. You're trying to minimize the amount of maneuvers that you're doing around the course while you want to be at the right place at the right time, and that's very difficult to achieve both things. So you would have to choose, and that makes up for some very difficult decisions for the sailing team.
Okay, you'd gone into the top mark in, I think, 3rd position, and then you came out in 5th position down here, or 4th. Actually, no, 4th position. You're still ahead of Australia, I think. But there was a lot of pressure coming into this race. How did it feel for you, Nicolai? So Ben Ainsley had said that the Danes, would be one of the big teams to watch. Did that add pressure getting onto the F50?
I mean, I didn't know that he said that. But it probably would have added a bit of pressure. But no, we knew what job was ahead of us. We knew it was going to be a very big task on day one of racing these fantastic boats and even better teams. So I think we managed the pressure pretty well by understanding that no one was expecting us to go win the first event. So I think, to be honest, the pressure, it was there in terms of sailing these boats, and you want to make sure you kept the boat and the crew and everyone in one piece. That's my main concern as the helmsman. So that's always going to be there, no matter if you're competing or not. You want to make sure everyone gets home in a very good position and all safe. So, but in terms of the competition and the pressure, I think we knew that we were going to struggle and we're going to make a lot of mistakes. And if you have that mindset going into the race, you can also accept a bit more mistake without getting frustrated and on the edge. So I think we handled it pretty well. But we also, we are competitive, and we also know the potential we have as a team, and especially with our sponsor ROCKWOOL giving us the opportunities to develop and take our time as a team. That's also put pressure on us to actually use that valuable support and give a good result. So for sure, that's something that's staying with us now, and that's driving us now as a team to develop.
What's interesting as well is that on paper, there were 2 new teams out on the water in Denmark and Spain, but in actual fact, there was a vast amount of experience. Arguably one of the most experienced men on the F50, Phil Robertson, at the helm of the Spanish boat. So he was able to really lift them, I think, through the first couple of races especially. You were really the only true F50 virgins out on the water there racing, weren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also shows, if with a bit of experience in the helms position, you can really actually save a lot of errors around, and you can make it a lot easier for your crew. And I think being an inexperienced helmsman, I didn't make it easy for my crew most of the time. I certainly make their life hard and work a bit extra for it. So it's no secret for sure. The guy in the back has a lot of responsibility in the outcome, and yeah, I just need to really make sure I catch up quickly and make sure that it gets a lot easier to be my teammates on the boat.
Now this again, another big cross at the top mark here. And this is it. This is the cut and thrust racing of the F50, because they're big boats, they're moving quickly, and there's some serious crosses to try and hold your nerve through there.
Absolutely, and to be honest, I think at this moment we're probably feeling the pressure. Being in the mix here, fighting with other boats that we thought we were going to be a bit far behind on first regatta. It's definitely adding pressure. We definitely might be pushing a bit too hard. It was all for us. It was all about not pushing outside our limits. We knew we had limits in how we're sailing boat, and not putting the setup on the limit. Is probably something Petey also told us many times, that we had to race the boat that in a setup that we're actually capable of managing. And I think having these boats around us forced us to go for the extra setting where the boat is a bit quicker but a lot harder to sail, and that punished us a few times in some of our maneuvers in our straight line as well.
Yeah, you were on the high wind boards here, which we've likened to dancing in high heels. Very, very sensitive and difficult to control. But Peter, looking at the data now, you can see the ride time and the ride height there, and 90% and over a meter's ride height. I mean, that's really on the edge, isn't it?
It is, and it's a fine balance, because as Nicolai said, we were constantly trying to find those little margins to go faster, and we were struggling a bit with the boat speed a few times. So we really wanted to.
You're not here.
To put... No, not there. No, we're doing all right there. But yeah, we wanted to push it, and in many ways we kind of knew how we could push it even further than what we did. But we also knew that by doing so, we were imposing a big risk in also failing and having some crashes that would be a high risk and a high penalty. So we kind of wanted to be in the middle there, where we could try and follow up with the other guys while not making too many mistakes.
I mean, overall, how successful was Sydney for you in the goals that you'd set yourselves internally as a team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a success. If you ask us right after racing, we would have said, "Oh, we're not quite there, and we're not happy enough." But a few days later, I'd say I think we're pretty happy with our performance. It could have been a lot worse as a new team, and I think beforehand we probably would have been happy not finishing last in the regatta. So yeah, I think in all we're satisfied, but we also made some silly mistakes that even though we knew we shouldn't be making. So there was a lot of stuff to work on for us and take on from Sydney, and it's something we're actually already working on now. So we are more ready for when next season starts again.
Peter, from your perspective, was there, obviously you're focused on your own team's data, but I imagine you went and had a look at the British team's data fairly closely after the event as well?
Yeah, I would say that the race or the whole event in Sydney, although we didn't get the best result, I think in many ways we managed to succeed quite well. We managed to find a really good way of mixing this way of communicating with data together with how the sailors what they felt and how they were actually how they saw the races evolving. So that allowed us to afterwards being able to really dig down into the fine details and learn a lot from every move that we did, but also what the competitors did. So I'm really looking forward to next season and go out there and show the other guys what we've learned so far, and we still have a lot to learn, and we are still working hard to set us up properly for next year. And I think Sydney really allowed us to do that, because now we have the questions that we know that we just need to answer.
I mean, from your perspective, Nicolai, how much of a change is it sailing in this way, where you have so much insight into? I mean, it was always the case that sailing was very instinctive, personal pursuit, especially for the skipper. But it feels now like you've got this vast team that you have to learn to harness. Otherwise, you just can't be competitive.
Absolutely, I think it's the biggest job you have as a helmsman of the team is really to, as you say, harness all the information from all the guys and getting the maximum out of each position, and because there's no position in the boat which is not linked to a lot of data points. Everything we do, from grinding to flight controlling to trimming the wing, everything is locked and shared, with the other teams. So we have, great possibilities to copy and learn from the other teams, and that's a massive job that we really have to do well at. And it also, it changes the sport completely. We go from sailing goes from being a sport where it's very hard to understand what we're doing and it's very hard to also show what we're doing, to now that this data can actually help tell the story and tell what is the difficult things for us to do when we're racing these boats, but also what are we doing when it's going well and we're winning. Why is GBR winning now? That suddenly we can tell and explain that story with the data, and that's great not only for us but also for people watching sailing and watching SailGP.
Is there one data point, one statistic that you keep coming back to that you find really, really important and a great indicator?
I mean, I'm sure if you ask Peter, he's probably got his favorite number. But for some reason, I always end up discussing rudder average together with Rasmus. How high should we fly the rudders? But I think, for us in Sydney, I think we discussed ride height a lot. In general, if you can fly high on the limit, with a lot of differential on the rudders, which means, they're not set evenly. One rudder is pulling down and one rudder is lifting the boat to get the riding moment exactly. Then if you can get that right, then I think you're going pretty fast in a straight line. So that's something we discussed a lot. But I'm sure if you ask Peter that question, he's going to give you a lot of difficult numbers I don't even know what mean.
Well, there you go, Peter. What have you got for us? Favorite number?
Favorite number? I think as Nicolai said, it was all circulating a lot around the rudders and the board configurations and also the dynamics in that. And I think my most important task is trying not to throw very complex numbers at the sailors, but trying to translate whatever I see into something that can be readily applied on the water. So any larger statistical evaluations are not that relevant when you have a few minutes to the next race.
Okay, there was one big advance that I heard a lot behind the scenes in Sydney. It was the idea that Great Britain were using windward heel, i.e. they were dropping the windward side of the boat closer to the water. And there was speculation that was one of the key facets that made them quicker. Have you analysed that data? Have you seen anything that would prove or disprove that?
Yes, we're actually also talking about that, and we are looking into that. It's also what's also good about this data set is that you can also monitor all the systems and the entire setup and the loads. Different places on the boat, so you can kind of create an image on how they're set up. And I think we learned a few things, and we have a few things that we would like to test for next season for sure.
Nicolai, what would you say the biggest thing you learned from Sydney was, considering you were surrounded by some of the best and most intimidating sailors on the planet? There must have been some good take home.
Oh, absolutely. I think the biggest learning for us is that we need more hours on the water as a team. And because that's the only chance we can actually utilize all the data we know and all the information we have. We need actually to use it in action. We spend many hours after Sydney debriefing with Peter, and then we understand all the numbers, and we have them in our hands, and we can see the difference, for example, that GBR is doing compared to us. But we do need to be on the water for us to actually learn how to use those numbers and get the most out of them. Because in the end of the day, we also, we have our hands on the boat, and that has to deliver the sailing of the boat. And so I think that's the biggest learning we have from Sydney. We simply just need more time as a team, and then I think we'll get there eventually.
Okay, one last question. Have either of you had a Eureka moment with the data where you've been able to analyze something and pinpoint something you're doing either very well or something you're falling short on, where you can go, right, okay, yes, that works?
I mean, I find a lot of things I'm falling short on, to be honest. I find heaps of numbers where I should be doing a better job compared to some of the other guys. But no, I think I have actually in each maneuver, it's very easy to see when we're dropping the board to change tack of the boat to go the other way. It's very key how we enter that into a maneuver. And for me, it's the data show me that I'm simply rushing the maneuver a bit too much. I'm turning before the boat is ready, and that's costing us good maneuvers in a lot of the situations. So that was a wake-up call for me. Unfortunately, I didn't pick up on before until after Sydney.
Peter, is there anything you've seen beyond that?
I think there's, luckily we have so much to learn right now. So there are quite a few things that are eye-openers for us. So we still have a few low-hanging fruits to pick up. But we were also able to perform some diagnostics on the systems and the hydraulics that was quite satisfying to be able to push on to the tech team and be able to improve the setup of the boat in that way.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for all of your insight. That was thoroughly enjoyable. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the start of the season 2.2, if you like, in San Francisco next April. So a very solid first event for the Danish SailGP team, and plenty for them to build on ahead of season 2 starting in San Francisco in April 2021. If you want to watch any more SailGP races, you can do simply by downloading the free SailGP app using the App Store or Google Play. And if you want to learn more about the Oracle Cloud and its innovation, you can just go and check out oracle.com/cloud. And finally, don't forget to join us on our next Winning Calls. But for now, thank you for joining us on Winning Calls with Oracle.